Hello and welcome to Portland State University Intermediate Excel. In this first video, we're going to do a little bit of an introductory video here. This is going to be a little bit of review. Really, what I want to focus on is I want to focus on defining what Excel is, and in doing so, we're probably going to cover a lot of concepts and techniques that you've already covered in a beginning course. But hopefully this will sort of really drill them into your head. And also, if you haven't taken any beginning stuff, well, this might be just enough information to sort of jumpstart you into the video series. So let's get started with what Excel is. Well, to begin that, let's talk about what Excel is not. Excel is not a word processor based on a grid layout. And so what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that the first time that I opened up Excel when I was a little bit younger, I looked at it and I said, well, I'm not sure what this is, but what it looks like is Microsoft Word, except that as opposed to having a page that you type stuff in, you've got this grid thing here. So I can type in cat, I can come over here and type in dog. So it's basically just I used to think that it was Microsoft Word but with graph paper. But that's not accurate. That is not what it is. It is something different. Also, it is not a graphic design program. Excel is not designed to produce beautiful documents, which is not to say that you can produce beautiful documents with Excel, and not to say that you shouldn't produce beautiful documents with Excel. When you produce your documents, you should make them look nice. But the focus is not on creating something that looks beautiful, that is visually appealing. That is not its primary job. Okay, so now that I've talked a little bit about what Excel is not, maybe you're wondering, well, that's nice, but well, what is Excel? What is it for? What does it do? Well, Excel is the most awesome calculator you didn't realize you already owned. That's your first definition. That's a nice definition because it'll give you a sort of feel for what you can do with it. But let's go one step further and do something a bit more textbooky. So a more textbook-like definition would be Excel is a tool that lets you build complex dynamic models which create answers or insight. Well, those are a lot of big fancy words. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is Excel is this tool that's going to let you start with a bunch of raw data, and you're going to take that raw data and you're going to push it into some calculations. And those calculations are going to spit out results. And then you're going to take those results, you're going to push them into other calculations. Then you take the results from that, it spits out some results, and maybe you take those two results and you spit them into this calculation. And finally, after you've gone through this whole chain, this last calculation is going to spit out their results, but now the results are actually useful information. So Excel is this tool that lets you sort of build this area right here, wherein you build this thing that's going to grab this raw data, and it's going to turn it into useful information. So while Excel will allow you to do some design, the focus is really on turning this stuff here into this here, on creating insight via this process, on creating insight that you didn't already have when you opened up Excel. Okay, so when I say that Excel is a calculator, what do I mean? Well, to sort of explain that, let's start by asking, well, how do you put numbers into Excel? Well, you've probably figured this part out yourself. You could just click on any of these cells here and you type some numbers in. I hit 100. I hit enter. Okay, I hit 20. I hit enter. And I hit 7. I hit enter. Okay, well that's kind of nice. So you can certainly put numbers in Excel that way. And let's say that I want to get the sum of these numbers. I want to add them all together. Well, let's see. The way that most people do this, if they don't know too much about Excel, is what they do is they say, well, these three numbers here, those are pretty easy to add together, so I'm just going to add them together. I'm going to say 100 plus 20 is 120, and 120 plus 7 is 127. So the sum is 127, and I hit enter. And, that's there's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly fine way to go about things, but you have to do it yourself. You have to do math, which not a lot of people like to do, and you're likely to get an incorrect answer if you've got more than three numbers that you have to add together, or if you have to do more complicated math. It's going to get pretty tricky pretty quick. So, boy, wouldn't it be nice if there were better ways to handle that? And, well, really, that's what Excel is all about. Excel is about better ways to do this. Now, there's more to it, but that's a good starting point. So, okay, what are some of those better ways to do this? Well, we're going to do calculations. So rather than saying we're just going to add the numbers in our head and then type them in, we're going to have Excel do those calculations. And to have Excel do a calculation in a cell, the first thing you have to do is, rather than typing in like 127, you're going to go to a cell. Like, I'm going to navigate to this cell by left-clicking on it. I'm going to hit the equal sign. And by hitting that equal sign is the first thing that I type into a cell. What I'm telling Excel is that this cell is going to be a calculated cell. That anything after this equal sign, that's going to be a calculation that Excel is going to perform. And whatever the outcome is of that, that's what it's going to put for the value in the cell. So let's start with the slightly better example. So I wanted to add 100, 120, or not that. I wanted to add 100. Then I wanted to, boy, I'm all over the place. I wanted to start with 100. I wanted to add 20 to it, and then I wanted to add 7 to that. So let's do that. Equals 100 plus 20 plus 7. And I hit enter. And sure enough, I get the same answer. This is a little bit nicer because I don't have to do math in my head. And furthermore, I know that I'm not that good at arithmetic, and Excel is very good at arithmetic. It doesn't really make mistakes. So you can be pretty confident that when you put this calculation into Excel, it's going to come up with the right answer. By the way, I just did something there that you may not know how to do. I'm going to hit enter again. If I double-click on this cell, it's going to go from showing me the outcome of that formula to the formula itself. So let's do that. Double-click with the left mouse button. Double-click. Okay, there it is. And I'm going to hit escape. And notice also that when I've got this cell selected, if you go up here to what's called the formula bar, you can see the formula or the recipe up there. So this, it's not like I type in a calculation and it just spits out an answer and that's all there is in the cell. The cell contains both the result and the formula or the recipe to get that result. All right, well we've shown you one easier way to add these three numbers together. Are there easier ways? You bet they are. Okay, so number 2, I'm going to start by going down to this cell here. I'm going to hit the equal sign to let Excel know that I'm going to be doing a calculated column. That what's going to be in this, not calculated column, a calculated cell. That what's going to be in this cell is going to be a calculation. So now, instead of typing the numbers in, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click on this cell. I'm going to hit the plus symbol. I'm going to click on this cell. I'm going to hit the plus symbol again, and I'm going to click on this cell. Okay, notice now I've got these guys over here, and you notice the C8 that's got that blue color there, and notice that this cell here lines up with the C right there and the 8 right there. So this portion of the formula refers to this cell. Then I add this guy, which is right there, and then I'm going to add this guy, this color right there. So now when I hit enter, I also get 127. So that was kind of the same thing, but maybe a little bit nicer. It seemed a little bit more technical. But is there an even better way to do it? Well, certainly there is. Let me show you. So I'm going to hit equal sign again to let Excel know that this is going to be a calculated cell. I'm going to type in sum, open parentheses, and now instead of clicking one after the other, instead of going click, plus click, I'm going to hit backspace. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to left click and drag over the cells that I want to add together. I'm going to hit close parentheses. And so now what I've done is I've told Excel, with this first equal sign, I've told Excel that this is going to be a sum. I want to add a bunch of numbers together. Well, what numbers do I want to add together? I want to add together the numbers in between these parentheses here. I want to add these guys together, which refers to this group of cells right there. Okay, now if I hit enter, I've got 127. So, all of these, including this guy over here, they all do the same thing, but they sort of get incrementally easier as you go forward. And you can imagine if you have to add, not just 3 numbers together, but 1,000 numbers together, or 100,000 numbers together. Being able to do it like this is much easier. Once again, if I double-click on a cell, it opens up the underlying formula, in case I want to change it or do something to it. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. So let's move on. So these calculations that you can do with Excel. They're both dynamic and complex. But what do I mean by that? Those are nice fancy words. They look good on advertisements. But what do they mean in the context of Excel? Okay. Well, first off, let's start by saying I've got 3 lemonade stands here, and I want to know let's start by saying what is the average revenue for each one of these lemonade stands. Let's say these dollars, these values here are revenue. Okay, well, before we did the sum function, which said, hey, anything here in the middle of these parentheses, I want you to add it up. Well, we don't want to add these things up because, there's a different number of days that these lemonade stands were open. This guy was open 3, this guy was open 5, and this guy was open 4. So we're going to have to do something different. We're going to do an average. Let's find the average revenue per day for these lemonade stands. So just like before, I'm going to type in average because that's the name of the function that I want. A function does a bunch of stuff to whatever's in between the parentheses. So, and now I'm going to left click and drag to select these guys right here. So now what I'm telling Excel is I start with an equal sign to let Excel know this is a calculated cell. I type in average open parentheses to let Excel know that I want to take the average of the contents of the stuff within the parentheses. I select this guy, and then I type in a close parentheses. So now when I hit enter, we get $45. That's the average revenue for lemonade stand A. So let's head over here to B and do the same thing. I'm going to do it real quick. You have to spell things right in Excel, otherwise they don't work very well. I type in equals average, open parentheses, click and drag to select this stuff, close parentheses, and enter. Okay, the average for stand B, well, that was $40. Okay, so let's go to stand C. Do it again. Equals average, open parentheses, left click and drag to select that stuff, close parentheses, and hit enter. Okay, so now I've got the average for all 3 lemonade stands. So when I say that these calculations are dynamic, what I mean is that if I go back, let's say that somebody comes up to me, the person who ran the lemonade stand, and they feel really bad because they may have accidentally fudged the numbers for the second day that the lemonade stand was open. They put down $60 and the actual number was 6. So that screws up your calculations, right? Well, I mean, yeah, a little bit, but the nice thing about Excel is if I just type in, I'm going to type in 6 in this cell, but I want you to watch to what happens over here, right? I'm going to type in 6, and I hit enter, and notice when I typed in 6 over here and hit enter, this guy automatically updated. So when you've got these cell calculations, these calculated cells, if you change the inputs to those cells, the output of the cell will update automatically. Okay, so that's what I mean by dynamic. If you change something before a calculation, it will sort of cascade forward into calculations further down the chain, if you will. All right, so now I've got these 3 numbers right here. What do I mean by complex? Well, what I can do is I could take the results of these calculations and I could push them into another calculation. So right now I've got the average for all 3 for the 3 different lemonade stands. But what I want to know is I want to know the smallest average profit from all the lemonade stands. I want to know I don't want to know which lemonade stand is least profitable. I just want to know what the least profitable lemonade stand makes. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit equal sign to let it know that I want it to be a calculation. I'm going to type in min, open parentheses. Min stands for minimum, and the minimum function, well, it's going to take a bunch of numbers, and it's going to spit out the smallest number. So in this instance, I typed in equals, I typed in min, open parentheses. I'm going to click on this guy. I'm going to hit comma to separate the numbers. I'm going to click on this guy, comma again, and click on this guy, close parentheses. So now this min function is going to look at the numbers in D5, which is right here, D5, D10, which is right here, D10, and D17, D17, notice the matching colors. It's going to take those 3 numbers and it's going to give back the smallest of those 3 numbers. And now I hit enter. Okay, so that's what I mean by complex. You could take the results from one set of calculations and push them into another calculation. So you can imagine, this is only sort of two sets of calculations here. You can imagine stretching this out over hundreds of calculations to build big, complex, sophisticated calculations. And also, if I say I go over here and I'm going to change the number from stand A, this last day sales, I'm going to change it from $60 to 2. Notice that not only did this guy update, this guy over here also updated. So that dynamism, that carries through your entire model. So if this guy depends on this guy, when something changes, and this guy depends on this guy, when something changes over here, it will affect the results of this cell, which will then affect the results of this cell. Pretty handy, huh? Okay, so that's the basics of dynamic and complex models. That's what we mean by that. Let's go over and do some other kinds of calculations. So you've already seen some number calculations. I'm just going to do them again so we really go over this. So if I want to add these numbers together, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit equals sum, open parentheses, click and drag over the numbers I want to add together, and I hit enter. Okay, that's easy. We've done that enough times. You've already seen average also. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit average. By the way, I can click on it here. Let me show you how you do that actually. So if you hit equals, you hit average. You can use the arrow keys to go up and down. You find one you want and you hit tab. Oh, it'll fill it in for you. Isn't that handy? Yeah, it's pretty nice. Okay, so I've hit equals average, open parentheses. I select the things I want to take the average of, and close parentheses, and enter. And now I've got the average. Okay, well we've sort of already seen that before. What else can you do? Well, you're not limited to just working on numbers. You can also work on text. So, for example, say over here I've got this list of all the different counties in the state of Oregon, but I pulled these off the internet, and boy, they're all formatted in uppercase letters. That's kind of ugly. It sure would be nice if there was a way to convert it into like proper noun kind of format, where the first letter is capitalized and all the other letters are not capitalized. Boy, I guess I'm going to have to go find, I don't know, maybe a graduate assistant or something to help me out with that, because this is going to be a lot of tedious work, having to go through and do it by hand. Well, you could certainly do it by hand, but Excel, it's got some options for you. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit equals. I'm going to type in proper, as in proper noun, right? Open parentheses, and I'm going to click on this guy. I'm going to hit close parentheses, and what proper is going to do is it's going to take not a number but a text string, a collection of letters, symbols, and numbers, and it's going to take, it's going to leave in a chain of letters. It's going to leave the first letter uppercase, and all the other letters are going to be lowercase. And so if I hit enter, notice it left the B in Baker. Well, that's still capitalized. That's just the way we want it. But all the other letters are now lowercase, just like a proper noun. All right. Well, let's do that for the other ones. This might take a while. Equals proper. Hey, you know what? Wouldn't it be easier if instead of having to do this by hand each time, there was a way to sort of do this kind of automatically? Wouldn't that be nice rather than doing what I'm doing right now? Well, yeah, there is. So let's stop doing it this slow way and let's do it the fast way. So I could keep doing it this way, I should point out. I could go through one by one and type in this proper and then click right next to it and hit enter. But there's a faster way. So I'm gonna hit escape to undo that. I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna click on this cell. I'm going to hit Control C for copy, and now I'm going to left click and drag down here. There's better ways to do this, but this is the easiest way to do it. And now that I've selected all these cells, I'm going to hit Control V, which in Microsoft Word or most programs is paste, and it's paste here as well. But instead of pasting the word Benton, it's going to paste the formula that created this word Benton. And watch what happens when I do that. Control V. Boom! Suddenly, with a single keystroke, I've taken all this stuff here that was formatted in this really ugly format, and I've turned it into nice formatting. And this is sure a lot faster than doing it by hand. So what I've done is I've saved myself a lot of time. And there's all sorts of kinds of different text functions that you can use, but this is sort of a nice, easy example. Okay, so I've shown you what you could do with numbers. I've shown you what you could do with text. Calculated cells and all that stuff. Let's move on to show you some formatting. Now, formatting is not the emphasis of Excel, but you could still do a fair amount of it. So you can make your documents look a little bit prettier. So for example, I'm going to click on this guy here. I can change the cell background. To change the cell background, I go up here. By the way, this kind of area right about, well, actually there is all the formatting stuff. So I'm going to click on this paint bucket. And I'm going to click on some color. I like green. Green is good. So if I click on that, notice now the cell, the place where calculations happen, the background of it is now green. It's pretty nice, I guess. It's a handy little thing you can have. Okay, so other things we could change. We could change the font size, face, color, etc. So let's start by changing the size. Up here, I click on this cell, left click on it. I go up here, where font size. See, it's got the nice little thing underneath it that says font size. I click on the little down arrow, and then I could select all these different sizes. Let's start with 9. Now, that's a little small. Let's do something bigger. Let's do 22. Okay, so I've changed the font size. Let's change the font face, or the typeface, whatever you want to call it. Let's change it to Times New Roman. To change that, I just go up here and click that arrow, and I've got all these different fonts I can change it to. Let's change it to, I don't know, Modern number 20. That's a good sounding font. Okay, I can also change the color. So if I go up here next to the paint bucket, there's the little A with what looks like some color underneath it. Click on that, and I can make it. Let's make it red, because cats can sometimes be dangerous. You have to watch out for them sometimes. Okay, so I can also make it bold. If I click on the bold, the little B, that stands for bold. I can make it italic. I can underline it. All that good stuff. The same stuff you could do in Microsoft Word. What you can also do, which is really nice, is add some borders. So I'm going to left click and drag to select this region right here. And then I'm going to go up here to where my borders are. And let's start by adding all borders. So this is going to put borders everywhere, just like that. So it makes it a little bit easier to look at. But let's take it one step further. I'm going to select it again. And I'm going to go click on thick box border. And that puts a thicker box border around the edge of your selection. So notice I've made it look a little bit easier to look at. It's easier to sort of spot that this is a collection of numbers, and these guys in here are the elements of that collection. Other things I can change include the alignment. So I can go up here to my alignment control. See, it says alignment. I can align it left. Notice that it's now hugging the left side of the cell. I can align it right. Notice now that it's hugging the right side of the cell. I can align it up, so it's hugging the top of the cell. I can do middle, which is what it was at before. Now it's in the middle cell, and I can do bottom, which is pretty cool. Okay, other things I can do conditional formatting. This will come in handy later on. This is a really nice feature, probably underutilized. So I'm going to select this region right here. I'm going to come up here to conditional formatting, the big button that says conditional formatting. That's where all the conditional formatting is, surprisingly. I left click on it. I'm going to go down to data bars. What are data bars? Well, I will show you. I'll go over here to solid fill. I hit left click, and look at that. With that little mouse click, I've taken all these numbers here, which were just numbers, and I've sort of I've given like a bar chart to each number according to its relative value. So the big numbers like 211, they've got this big bar, and the small numbers like 19, they've got this small bar there. That will make it so that people who are looking at your numbers will be able to more easily find the big ones and the small ones, or notice patterns in the numbers and that kind of thing. Okay, well, I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that, just so you know that you can do it, but we don't want to look at it forever, so I'm going to hit Control Z to undo it. So here we are where we started again. You can also create charts. So I'm going to select this whole area right here. I'm going to go over to the Insert part of the ribbon, click on that. And there's all these different charts. Which one do I want to do? Well, this is categorical data, so I'm going to do a column chart. Click on that. Oh man, all these options. Well, I'm a purist. I'm just going to go with the basic one, and I'm going to click on it. And notice now, I've got this chart here. So that I've gone from numeric information or tabular information displayed as a bunch of text, to a nice visual display of that information. It's sort of like what we had with the conditional formatting, but maybe even a little bit better. And man, there's so many options with this. Excel's there's a lot you can do with charts, and we'll get into that. But I just want you to know that you can take your results and make them beautiful by turning them into charts. Okay, well, we've done all that, so let's close out. We've been talking for a while. Let's finish up, shall we? So, while all that, this formatting stuff, this is all really nice and it's really important. It's good to know how to use this stuff here. This is not the main function of Excel. This is not what Excel is designed primarily what to do. So what is Excel designed primarily to do? Well, now that we've gone through the video, I think I could change my definition a little bit. Excel uses chains of calculated cells to create useful insight out of raw numbers and text. That's a nice sentence. I'm very proud of that sentence, I'll have you know. Okay, so let's dissect it a little bit. Excel uses chains of calculated cells to create useful insights out of raw numbers and text. Okay, so Excel, it takes these raw numbers and text, which are sitting over here somewhere, and it uses a bunch of different calculated cells, chains of calculated cells. So I build a calculation over here that takes this information, it spits out an answer. And then I take another calculated cell over here that takes the answer here and turns it into some other answer. And then I take this answer and I put it over here into this cell and it spits out some other answer. And I kind of keep going and going and going until I finally spit out something that is useful, that gives me insight into the world around me, hopefully. So it takes a bunch of numbers and text. It uses calculated cells to do stuff to the raw numbers and text. It takes the results. It spits those into other calculated cells, and it kind of keeps going. It repeats as needed. And finally, at some point, your calculated cells spit out answers. And then when you're done with that, you can make it nice looking. And I don't want to imply that making it nice looking is unimportant. It's very important. But that's not the primary job of Excel. It's important, but what Excel is really designed for is creating the answers, is creating these insights. It's taking that raw data and turning it into something useful. So the focus it's on creating information. It's creating new information rather than taking pre-existing information and presenting it. So Excel sort of assumes that when you walk into it, that when you open up your copy of Excel, that you don't already have an answer in hand, that you just have to find some way to format. It assumes you don't yet have an answer and you're going to use Excel to build an answer. And then once you've built it, you can make it pretty. And I want to emphasize again that these calculated cells, that's where Excel's power lies. If you learn them, they will become your new best friend. They will make your life much easier. They will reduce the amount of time you spend working on stuff. And they're just great to know. And the more you know them, the more you know about them, the better you're going to be in Excel. Okay, well, I think that's a nice little introduction to what Excel is and sort of a review of how calculated cells work. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next video.